All right, everybody. Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday to you. Hopefully, you're having a good Friday wherever you are in this world. Hopefully, it's a good one. We are having a good Friday here. A lot to go over today, and looking forward to the show. Hopefully, that you are as well. Kind of going through this. So bear with me for just a second here. All right. For those of you who would like to know a little bit about who I am, let me give you my website. How's that? My website is bishopjameslong.com. bishopjameslong.com. So if you want to know more about who I am, just go to the website. By the way, I do have 4 classes that I am teaching. They are 100% online, and guess what? They're free. Free. They're free of charge. So here's what we can do. If you want to go to check out my website, go certainly run over there and after the show. And of course, head on over there and go click on the class link, bishopjameslong.com, and click on the class link. And there you go. There's 4 classes. You learn on your so you will learn at your own pace. Yep, you have to be on Facebook. So you have to do that. And don't forget, they're all free. So again, bishopjameslong.com, click on the class link. Now, if you want to go to the church's, if you want to go to the church's website, that's easy too. usocc.org. usocc.org. That's the church's website. So you can to run on over there and check that out. I want to remind everybody tonight we have night prayer, as we always do, Monday through Friday. And we start the chat around 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So what you can do is just show up here. You know, for those of you on Facebook or KGRDB, you can head on my Facebook page or YouTube, whatever it might be. And we actually teach RCIA for free as well. So if you want to know about Catholicism, you want to know about, we have an RCIA program, free. Everything we're giving, free. And for the trolls, it's still not enough, is it? So anyway, you can go to usocc.org, usocc.org, and head on over there and check that out. So please feel free to do that. And by the way, sub chat only now is on TikTok because the trolls are coming in here and they're, pestilent adults who act like pestilent children who can't behave. And you're trolling clergy on a Friday night. And you're an adult. Sorry. My apologies. Well, that's a different interesting. Anyway, so if you want to chat with us on TikTok, you got to subscribe. Well, that's not fair. Well, you know what? Tell the trolls to leave us alone. Then maybe we wouldn't have to do that. But until then, that's how we roll. Maybe later on we'll turn the chat on for everybody. Maybe not. We'll see. All right. Today, it's free to watch. You can still watch. We're going to have a very interesting conversation. And I tell you what, this is going to be a very, very interesting conversation. Hospitals are a place that a lot of people, most people, don't like to go to. Which, duh. Nobody goes to a hospital because it's like, whoa, let's go on a field trip. It's not one of those places. But as a chaplain for the hospital, I have seen a lot of things. And things that are just kind of defy logical explanation. Now, there are people in this world, and look, they have a right to believe this, but I have a right to disagree. There are people that say that ghosts don't exist. I disagree with that. I completely disagree. And I understand that people are very, firm on their convictions, and that's okay. But I have noticed that, one thing that I've been doing, I like to promote other people's platform, especially on TikTok. But I've noticed that I've been promoting people's platform on TikTok, and then they directly attack what I say. And I'm thinking, that's not cool. That's really not cool at all. Because they never promote my platform ever. But I'm always promoting theirs. And then they turn around and it's just, so I'm going to stop doing that because it's just kind of like, it's not cool. It's just not cool. So, like, our moderators, we'll continue to, like Jack's Paranormal and any of our moderators. But I have noticed that I've been promoting that, and then I go to their platform, and they're just, blatantly saying, well, this person's wrong. And it's like, that's not cool. That's not cool. So here's the deal. I've been in the paranormal field for 35 years. That was the first time that I actually investigated a location. And I will tell you, plain and simple, thank you, plain and simple, that not everything is demonic. It just isn't. It just isn't. I'm sorry, it's not. And I get there are some people that believe everything is demonic. It is not. It is not. And look, if it was, I would tell you. I'd be the very first one to say, yep, everything is demonic. But that's not what I have found during my investigations. And quite honestly, if you're a seasoned paranormal investigator, you would probably agree. It just simply isn't. And by the way, people say, well, yes, the Bible says so. Actually, just the opposite. Just the opposite. Let me remind everybody of two passages in Scripture when the disciples were terrified. And they were terrified because they thought they were seeing a ghost. And then people say, well, it meant demon. That's not what it says. There is very clear spelling on demon and a spirit, a ghost. And so when Jesus was crucified, he appeared to the disciples, and they said they were terrified. They thought they were seeing a ghost. And Jesus said, ghosts don't have flesh and bones as you see that I have. Give me something to eat. So if ghosts did not exist, then Jesus would have said ghosts don't exist. That's not what he said. He clarified and said ghosts do not have this, so therefore they have their spirit form. And also when Jesus was walking on water, the disciples were terrified because they thought they were seeing a ghost. So what are ghosts? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I am convinced that our loved ones, 100% convinced, and no one is going to tell me otherwise, that our loved ones do visit us. Thank you, Wonder Woman, for sharing. I am convinced of this. I've had experiences personally where I have performed 33 exorcisms. 33. And I remember my Aunt Mary telling me, she said, James, when you smell roses, you know that I'm there. Thank you, guys. And in every single exorcism that I performed, every one of them, right before I perform them, I will smell roses. And I use oil, anointing oil, but it doesn't smell like roses at all. But it's an overwhelming sensation of roses. And that lets me know in every single exorcism I've done, every one of them. And, my mom also loved butterflies. And so I remember walking, doing my normal walking that I do. Thank you, guys. For those of you who have no idea what I keep saying, thank you. I run the show on two different computers. So I run the show here for you guys, my friends, on TikTok, and I run the show here on KGRDB Radio and the other social media platforms. So my friends there on TikTok are offering gifts to me, and I thank you. So if I don't thank you, it's not because I'm being rude. It's just because I'm looking at two different computers when running the show, okay? But my mom loved butterflies, and I remember walking around a track like I normally do. And there were no butterflies around at this time. I can't remember if it was going into December. I just can't remember. So there were no butterflies out. But as I was walking this path, I remember just kind of saying, okay, Mom, I hope you're doing okay. And just thinking about her. And this one butterfly, as I was walking the path, it kept flying around me. And I thought, that is strange. Because number one, that was the only butterfly around in this entire field. But it just kept flying around me. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So I walked the entire track, and that's what it just kept going around. And then I got to my car. Right as I got to my car, like 5 feet, it landed right on my hood of my car. And sometimes I try to use my logic and say, well, it's a butterfly. But why it would fly around me, obviously I wasn't wearing any cologne or anything like that. I'm out exercising. And so I stopped. I looked at the butterfly. I thought, well, that's interesting. And then I remember saying, okay, Mom, follow me. If that's your sign, follow me. Started walking. The butterfly started doing the same thing. Just going around me. There is no doubt in my mind, no doubt whatsoever, that that was my mom. None. And I am a firm believer that our loved ones can absolutely send us messages. No doubt about it. So yeah, the 33 exorcisms that I have performed, some have been violent and some not so violent. But in every single one of them, I've always smelt roses. Always. So tonight's presentation, thank you, is going to be about haunted hospitals and asylums. And I've been to the very first place that I've been, I'll tell you the story because I've told the story before. The very first location that I've been to, 35 years ago, Waverly Hills. Now, if you've never been to Waverly Hills Sanatorium, it is a massive, huge, I mean, it is a gigantic building. And 35 years ago, the owner at that time really didn't really care about it. As a matter of fact, he was trying to tear it down. He was trying to demolish it because what they wanted to do is destroy it and put the biggest statue of Christ. That was the goal. And they tried everything that they could to demolish this building. Thank you. Everything. So, and he didn't care. He people went up there all the time just to see it. And so me and a buddy of mine decided we're going to go up there. This is 35 years ago. So we went up there. And I remember going into the basement. So as soon as you walk in and there's like a basement area, and there were files everywhere, paper of patients. I mean, there were just a file cabinet. There was paper. I just remember everywhere. And I thought, I mean, this is private information of patients. And I saw this one wheelchair, and it was on its side. It was an old rusty wheelchair. You know, I walked over it, and I couldn't really even move the wheel because it was just so rusty. But we heard what sounded like a little kid crying. And it was clearly coming from upstairs. And I was concerned because I thought maybe it was a kid who playing hide and go seek with their friends, and they got lost. So we went up the stairs, and we finally, I think it was second floor, and the hallways echo. I mean, it's just a neat place. It's a really neat place. But for those of you who don't know about, it was a tuberculosis hospital, and then a psychiatric hospital. I mean, terrible things. And so we went out on the second floor, and we kept hearing this cry. And I was like, "Where are you? Where are you? We're here to help you." So we were going down the hallway, and the crying got louder. And we got to the bathroom area, and I remember going into the bathroom, and I think there were like 3 stalls, but they were the old time metal stalls. And I opened it clearly. That's where this kid was. So I said, "Okay, where are you?" And I opened the first stall. There was nothing there. I opened the second stall, nothing there. And the third stall is like, well, obviously the kid's in here. I said, "It's okay. We're here to help you." I tried to open the door, and I said, "Open the door," and the door was completely locked. It would not open. And as I got to this, it was like someone took a sledgehammer from inside that stall and hit the side of the stall so hard it shook the entire hall. I mean, the stall it shook violently. Well, needless to say, I wasn't an exorcist then. I saw me and my buddy. We took off. We ran down the 2 flights of stairs, and I don't know if we touched any of the stairs. Actually, we jumped. And as we got down to the very bottom floor, when we first walked in, that wheelchair that was absolutely, I mean, it was old and rusted. The wheel was just going around. And I was like, nope. So we took off. We got out of there. That was my first experience as an investigator at Waverly Hills. So if you've ever been to Waverly, and I've been to there many, many times, I live in Louisville, Kentucky, and so I've gone there quite often. And it's a very, very interesting place. Okay, guys, so let's get into our presentation tonight. So wherever you are, by the way, let's pray for everybody who's in the storm, the path of the storms. It is possible. It is possible. Hopefully not. I could be interrupted through another tornado warning again. So I'm just giving everyone heads up. I'm in Kentucky, and anyway, so hopefully not. Yeah. So they're talking about the possibility of tornadoes. All right. Let's talk about this chilling exploration of haunted hospitals. We're going to take a journey through the abandoned halls, forgotten wards, places that echo with stories of sorrow and mystery. Now, hospitals are sites of both healing and despair, where life and death coexist. So this duality makes them fertile ground for tales of the supernatural. So tonight, I'm going to guide you through some of the most famously haunted hospitals around the world, exploring the tragic histories and the ghostly encounters that have been allegedly documented. See, I think when discussing the elements of fear in hospitals, it's important to recognize the various factors, thank you, that can contribute to a patient's anxiety or fear during their hospital experience. The fears are a complex of, they're multifaceted, touching on emotional, psychological, and even physical aspects. So let's talk about why some people fear the hospitals. And then we're going to get into our scary conversation. First, it's the fear of the unknown. See, patients often fear what they do not understand. The medical procedures, diagnosis, potential outcomes are often foreign to them, leading to extreme anxiety about what might happen next. And as a chaplain for the hospital, I see this quite often. Now, of course, for many people, hospitals are a place of pain and discomfort. Whether it's the anticipation of pain from procedures, treatments, recovery, it is a significant source of fear. And that fear can be exacerbated by previous negative experiences or hearing about other people's painful experiences. This is why sometimes you can have poltergeist activity. Poltergeist, thank you, Tammy. Poltergeist means noisy ghost. It's not a ghost at all. Poltergeist is when a person is going through extreme emotional trauma, stress, and it causes light bulbs blowing, even fire. I think also hospitals, there's a fear of loss of control. Being in a hospital often means surrendering control over one's body and routine healthcare professionals. And that can lead to feelings of hopelessness and vulnerability. There's a fear of diagnosis. So patients may fear receiving a diagnosis that could be life-changing, potentially even terminal. And the uncertainty about their health status and future can be overwhelming. There's also separation anxiety, being away from familiar environments and loved ones. That can cause significant stress. Financial concerns. The cost of medical care is a significant stressor for many, leading to fear about how they'll pay for their treatment. I know certainly that is for me. When I had my immediate gallbladder surgery, as soon as I had that surgery and they wheeled me back to my room, I was apparently telling them I'm getting up. I'm getting up and I'm moving because I didn't want to stay another night because that meant I had to pay. There's a fear of infection and complications. Hospitals are designed to treat illness, but they also carry risk of hospital-acquired infections or complications. And the environment. The clinical and personal nature of hospital settings can be bright lights, unfamiliar sounds. So to address these fears, healthcare providers are increasingly focusing on patient-centered care approaches that include clear communication, empathy, creating a more comfortable environment. So now let's get into haunted locations that are quite reputable for their ghostly activity and even some demonic. Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So Waverly Hills Sanatorium is located in Louisville, Kentucky. It's infamous for its history and reputation, one of the most haunted locations in the United States, if not the world. Originally opened in 1910, the facility was built as a tuberculosis hospital to accommodate patients. Thank you there, Big Red. To accommodate patients during a time when the disease was rampant and treatments were limited. Now, actually, at one time, Waverly Hills was the place to go if you had tuberculosis. So let's talk about the early 20th century on Waverly Hills, because it's really, really interesting. So the original building was a 2-story wooden structure, and it could house about 40 to 50 tuberculosis patients. And due to the rapid spread of tuberculosis, also known as the White Plague, a larger facility was needed. So in 1920s, there was an expansion. In 1926, the current Gothic-style brick building was completed and could accommodate more than 400 patients. The facility was considered state-of-the-art at that time. Open-air porches to allow fresh air is a common treatment belief for tuberculosis treatment. As a matter of fact, Miss Wilma's father had tuberculosis, and he was treated there. Some treating methods was pretty rough. So the treatments for tuberculosis included fresh air and sunshine, and in some more severe cases, surgical interventions like removal of ribs to collapse the lung. And many of these treatments were really experimental and very painful. Now, Waverly Hills continued as a tuberculosis sanatorium until 1961, when the antibiotic for TB effectively brought the tuberculosis epidemic under control. The building was later used as a geriatric hospital until eventually closed in 1981. So what about the hauntings? Even urban legends in Waverly Hills, and there are a lot. So Waverly Hills is often cited as one of the most haunted locations in the world, partially due to its dark history. Numerous reported people who have passed away because of TB. And visitors and paranormal investigators have reported strange occurrences, including shadow people, sudden cold spots, disembodied voices. When I was at Waverly Hills, I've been to many times, I saw a lot of shadow people. Many times I experienced sudden cold spots. Thank you. And I even heard disembodied voices in the body chute. Disembodied voices is when you can actually hear the voice with your own ear. You can hear it. EVP is called electronic voice phenomenon. And that's a digital recorder. Yeah, there is a movie called The Death Tunnel. And actually, I think 5 documentaries, I think, with the Booth brothers. 3 or 5, I can't remember how many documentaries I did with them. But the Booth brothers did a movie called The Death Tunnel. And I think I did like 3 or 5. I can't remember how many documentaries. But so the death tunnel or body chute, it's a long tunnel used to discreetly transport deceased patients out of the hospital. They did this because there were so many people who were passing away, so many patients who were passing away because of tuberculosis, that they had this body chute, because that was their way of kind of hiding the amount of patients that were passing away, because they didn't want to affect the patient's morale, because there were so many. And it's a long body chute. Also, there's room 502, which I've been to many times. This room is infamous due to urban legends surrounding the deaths of 2 nurses. One, she unalived herself, and another under mysterious circumstances. Now, Waverly Hills has been featured in numerous paranormal television shows and documentaries, adding to its reputation as a center for supernatural activity. Today, Waverly Hills is privately owned. Visitors can take tours, including paranormal investigations and historical tours, and even overnights, which I've done both. Now, plans for rehabilitation and renovation have been discussed, often with the goal of transforming the space into a hotel or even a conference center, while preserving its historical significance. So let's talk about some ghostly encounters. So here's the information. And I spoke to all these people who've experienced this. One night, a group of ghost investigators, they were exploring the infamous death tunnel. Again, it's a long chute. So it's a long body chute where bodies were discreetly moved from the hospital. And at the very bottom, there would be a hearse. And of course, they would take the body to the appropriate location. And as they moved deeper into the tunnel, they noticed an unusual chill in the air. Thank you. And suddenly a dark, humanoid shadow appeared at the very end. But it was moving slowly towards them. The group, and there's no lights in here. It's completely dark. It's about a mile long down. The group completely froze. And watching as the shadow seemed to twist and expand, even crawling along the walls and the ceiling toward them. And despite their equipment malfunctioning and registering no physical presence, the sense of doom intensified with each step that this shadow took, going closer and closer towards them. And terrified, the group then retreated, feeling an icy breath on the back of their necks, until they finally burst into daylight outside, leaving the shadow to dissolve into darkness behind them. But that's for a group, Josh. That's for a group. Now let's talk about the nurse's ghost room in 502. This is a tragic story. And if you've never been there, it is eerie to see this. In room 502, it's on the very top floor of the Waverly Hills. It's said to be haunted by the spirit of a nurse who unalived herself under mysterious circumstances. So a former employee recounted a chilling experience they had one quiet afternoon. And while doing a routine security check, they noticed the door to room 502 open. And curious, they peeked inside only to be overwhelmed by the scent of lavender, which, by the way, that was the nurse's favorite perfume. And suddenly they heard soft, phantom footsteps, saw a figure in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform standing by the window. And the apparition turned to face them, revealing vacant eyes and a sorrowful expression. The temperature plummeted, and the employee felt a heavy sadness before the ghostly figure dissolved into thin air. Now, this on the fifth floor it's like the roof. And by the way, my friend and fellow Bishop David Price, many times he has been on Waverly Hills and just even slept there. And he told me one time he was on the very top of the roof, right in front of room 502. And he put a tent up there. And it was around, I think, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And he heard footsteps walking around the tent. Now, keep in mind, the building was completely locked. So there was no way nobody could get in there. And then he said, like someone took their hand and kept rubbing it against the tent, the front side and the backs as they were walking behind and in front. And they kept just going up and moving it up and down their hand. And they did it in the very front. And he immediately unzipped the zipper and looked, nothing was there. Nothing. Now, also on the rooftop, many people, and I actually experienced this when I was on the rooftop. I did an overnight once, and I was up on the rooftop with David. And this was really interesting. So Waverly Hills Sanatorium once cared for many children with tuberculosis. And I mean, Waverly Hills, it really was its own city at one time when it had tuberculosis. It even had its own post office. So it was kind of like its own little city set on a hill. And so there were many kids with tuberculosis, and they actually had a playground on top of this great big huge building, which is kind of weird to have a playground on the top of the building because, you know, it's a pretty far drop. But anyway, there was it cared for many children with tuberculosis. and echoes of their playful spirits still seem to haunt the premises. Well, late one evening, a paranormal enthusiast ventured alone on top the rooftop, which was once used as a playground for young patients. And the moon was bright, and it bathed the rooftop in its pale light. The air was suddenly filled with the sound of children's laughter and the faint echoes of a bouncing ball. And this investigator stood still, their heart racing, as the laughter grew louder and seemed to circle around them. Despite obviously no visible children, the sound was so vivid and close that the investigator could feel an inexplicable sense of joy, also mixed with deep sorrow. And the laughter slowly faded into the night, leaving them unnervingly alone once more. With, by the way, a little red ball went right to his feet. Now, there is a little boy, I think his name is Timmy. Many people have seen this apparition of this little boy named Timmy, and he kicks this ball. So they have a ball there, and sometimes he'll play with the ball and he'll kick it. And you can see this ball, clearly being with some force behind it. Yeah, this is it's a very, very interesting place. I'm curious, how many of you have seen, have been there? Let me know if you if you've been there before, let me know. No? There was there are a lot of people who've taken pictures and have captured what appears to be this silhouette of a little boy. I'm trying to, matter of fact, that was Louisville Mid-South Paranormal. They have a picture, and I'm trying to find it if I can. I don't know if I have it. Well, it'll be a while. But anyway, so let's go to Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Let's do this. So now this location has an eerie history of one of America's most infamous haunts, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. And standing sentinel in the quiet town of West Virginia, this imposing structure has stories hidden within its crumbling walls that, really, provoke the imagination. So West Virginia. It actually began in the mid-19th century amidst the tumultuous era of the Great American Civil War. In 1858, construction commenced on what was to become the largest hand-cut stone masonry building in North America, second only to the Kremlin in Moscow. Its grandiose design was the brainchild of architect Richard Andrews. It was believed to promote healing through beautiful surroundings and fresh air. Well, yet little did those who envisioned such a sanctuary know that it would become a chamber of horror, cloaked in shadows and whispered misery. And as the nation rippled with conflict in 1864, the asylum opened its doors to those deemed lunatics, epileptics, individuals suffering from depression. It's said that in its early years, the asylum was a beacon of modern mental health care, but as with any great institution, the sands of time shifted. And by the 1950s, the facility housed over 2,400 patients, more than 10 times its original intended capacity. Well, the corridors, once designed to echo serenity, didn't quite do so. It became festering passages of despair. Patients were crammed into tiny, unsanitary cells, shackled by a society that misunderstood the mind. And tales of inhumane treatments such as lobotomies, electroshock therapy, ice water baths turn these halls into echo chambers of screams. Now, under the shroud of night, the atmosphere of the asylum transforms. Crisp air gives way to dense fog of foreboding. And legend has it that the spirits of the tormented roam freely, their souls trapped in layers of this history. Well, visitors and brave investigators marvel at flickering lights, no source, and hear disembodied voices from darkened corridors. Apparitions of former residents and staff are seen wandering the halls. And among these spirits is the forlorn shadow of Lily. It's a young girl who reportedly found her eternal rest within the silent walls. Her playful laughter can sometimes be heard amidst the abysmal silence. And down the long, winding hallways, many have encountered Civil War soldiers. Their spectral forms perpetually waging the battle of sanity. They can never win in life. Now, the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum remains a stark reminder of the bygone era where mental illness was met with misunderstanding and horror. Its history, vibrant and varied, is draped in the stories of those who lived and passed away within its walls. Now, let's talk about some ghostly encounters people have had. So the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum, located, again, it's in Weston, West Virginia. It's a neat place. I've seen it. Has long been rumored to be haunted due to its tumultuous history. So I've spoken to people when I was there. These are directly from people who actually went inside. During a nighttime ghost tour, a group of visitors, they were walking through Ward 2, known to have housed some of the most disturbed patients. The air grew inexplicably cold. The group stopped to listen as their guide shared stories about the ward's history. Suddenly, one of the visitors gasped, pointing towards the far end of the hallway. Everyone saw a tall, shadowy figure appear, standing perfectly still in the dim light. And despite the absence of any features, its presence was overwhelming, malevolent, evil. And as the guide shone a flashlight towards it, the shadow man slid silently across the floor, disappeared through a wall. Several people in the group reported feeling an intense pressure on their chest, as if the shadow had taken a piece of their energy with it. Here's this is another story that a person told me about. There was a team of paranormal investigators set up cameras and audio equipment in the old original surgical suite, hoping to capture evidence of the otherworldly. Well, as they reviewed the footage later, they noticed a distinct mist forming in the middle of the room. The mist twisted into the shape of a woman in a hospital gown. And suddenly an ear-piercing scream emanated from the audio equipment, so loud that it actually distorted the speakers. The scream was filled with such despair and anger that several investigators reported feeling actually sick to their stomach. Although there were no visible source of the sound, the investigators concluded it was the spirit of a woman who had passed away on the operating table when she woke up during procedure, now doomed to express her pain through this anguished cry. This visitor that I spoke to, this is very interesting. I'm very skeptical of children spirits. I have a hard time in every single case that I've worked that involved children, ghosts. They were not ghosts at all. In every single case, it was demonic. Now, that's just from my experience. Well, this investigator told me during a historical day tour, because they offered day tours and night tours, a curious visitor decided to wander off on their own, drawn to the eerily quiet children's ward. And as they stepped into the room, they heard the faint sound of laughter, unmistakable noise of a wooden ball bouncing on the floor. And suddenly the temperature plummeted, and they saw a small girl in a faded dress standing in the corner with a ball in her hands. The girl's eyes were sunken, staring directly at the visitor. And the ball slipped from her hands. It rolled across the floor, stopped right at the visitor's feet. Now, they bent over to pick it up. The girl vanished. But the visitor reported feeling a tingling sensation through their hand, as if an icy breeze had just passed through. And this person, I've known this person for a while. They're not that type. They're not a type of person that embellishes. The next place is Utica State Hospital. Thank you guys for the gifts. I appreciate that. And thank you for the likes and shares. I appreciate that, guys. I agree, Dr. Campbell. I agree. This is Utica State Hospital. And by the way, so in October, I'm going to be going to Los Angeles. And I'm going to be on assignment from Judy Ann. Judy Ann's going to be serving as the executive producer. And I'm going to be going to several locations. Several. I'm going to be there for nearly 2 weeks. And I'm going to be putting several documentaries together. Thank you guys. On a couple. I'm not going to tell you these locations yet. But as we get closer, you'll know. I have a documentary already out now for the Gates of Hell Cemetery. And you can find that on my YouTube channel. Go to bishopjameslong.com, scroll down to social media links, and you'll see YouTube. Click it and look for Gates of Hell, the documentary. So, you have a new assignment. Oh, great. That's exciting. All right, listen to this. The Utica State Hospital. Never been there. We're going to delve into this chilling past of Utica State Hospital. It was an institution. It's shrouded in mystery, sorrow, perhaps the spectral visitations of those long departed. So picture yourself in the early 1840s, a time when society began to grapple with the enigma of mental illness. And it was in this era, amidst a lot of confusion and fear, that the Utica State Hospital, originally known as New York State Lunatic Asylum at Utica. It opened its doors in 1843, and standing proudly, or perhaps ominously, the heart of Utica, New York. It was the first state-run facility of its kind in the United States. Yet beneath its grandiose neoclassical facade, designed by architect William Clark, there lurked stories not of hope and healing, but of despair, desolation. As with many asylums of its time, the corridors of the Utica State Hospital witnessed methodologies that, in the cold light of modern understanding, echo with horror. So if you listen closely, if you shut your eyes and open your mind, you might actually hear them. Many people say the whispers of those incarcerated within those walls, their secrets and sufferings. Now, the notorious Utica crib, it's an invention synonymous with the asylum, casts a really dark shadow on the place. Guys, listen to this. It was designed, it's called the Utica crib. It's designed as a restraint. And this barred, coffin-like bed was intended to control the movements of most agitated patients. So imagine, if you will, the terror of such confinement. Thank you. The claustrophobic grip on a psyche as one lay trapped beneath the lid with only darkness, despair. So the hospital's early years were deeply influenced by its first superintendent, Dr. Brigham, a pioneer in the fear who championed the moral treatment of patients and ideology based on kindness and respect. But as noble as his theories were, unfortunately, it fell short. Thank you. Overcrowding soon plagued the institution, and those ideas were drowned in a sea of unchecked growth. So with the passing of decades, Utica State Hospital bore witness to practices that, really flitted on knife's edge of morality and madness. Thank you, guys. So hydrotherapy, electroshock, and even insulin comas became the order of the day. These treatments, as they were so kindly referred to, bore little resemblance to therapy. More so, a grim dance with despair. And they left behind echoes in the hallowed halls. So As we traverse these corridors, we must pause at the Utica State Hospital's most notorious wing, the asylum's attic. This was a place not of storage, but segregation. So here the most disturbed were kept, isolated from the world below. It is said that their cries would drift through the building, a mournful chorus that the wind could never quite carry away. And legends and lore have taken root in the fertile ground of the history. Tales of specters drifting through the halls, footsteps when no one was there, shadows where light should pervade. And some say that on certain nights, the veil grows thin and the past phantoms play their part once more. Now, the hospital eventually closed in the 20th century. Its purpose usurped by modern march of psychiatric care and understanding, but its legacy and chilling reminder of an era where the light of knowledge battled the dark tide of ignorance. So let's talk a little bit about some encounters that I have asked people, and this is what they have told me. Remember, Utica State Hospital, originally known for New York State Lunatic Asylum. It's a long history. Several former employees have recounted encounters with what they described as the spirit of a nurse who roams the hospital's corridors. So many people say that this spectral nurse was a compassionate caregiver who met a tragic end during her time at the asylum. On multiple occasions, staff members reported feeling an undeniable chill as they walked down this long, dimly lit hallway late at night where there is no air conditioning. And in the silence, some heard the distinct sound of a soft-soled shoes slowly pacing the tiled floors, following by a faint, disembodied voice whispering. And those who mustered the courage to follow the sounds described seeing a fleeting figure clad in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform vanish before their eyes. Now, one person told me this is their experience. One of the most common reports from those who visited this hospital is the eerie sound of weeping emanating from the vacant patients' rooms. So visitors who participated in historical tours often recounted hearing crying, sobbing, that seemed to come from all directions. And one witness even described entering a particular room following the sound, only to find it empty. The air was very heavy with sadness, as if the lingering spirit of a tormented soul was still trapped within these walls. And then finally, another person told me urban explorers who have dared to venture into the hospital's off-limits area, because there are off-limit areas, often spoke of the unsettling presence that inhabits the attic space. So one person said that they saw an entity, what is known as the shadow. It appears as a dark, tall silhouette against the dim light, flickering through the dust-covering windows. And those who have ventured too close to the attic report feeling an inexplicable, crushing sense of dread, accompanied by a drop in temperature. Now, several cameras and recording devices fail to work properly in the presence of the shadow, leading many to believe that this ghostly figure wields some form of paranormal energy. And a few brave adventurers claim to have seen the shadow move quickly, almost inhumanly, dissolving into the darkness as if, taunting its observers. One person told me that they went up there with a friend of theirs and they saw this. First, it was like huddled down. It was squatted down, squatted down like with the knees bent. And they saw it in the corner. And they originally thought it might have been a person because it was kind of dark. And they put their flashlight, nothing. They moved their flashlight and they could see the silhouette. They put their flashlight right back on the corner, nothing. And as they moved the flashlight again, this thing stood up and darted towards them. And as it darted towards them, it disappeared. And they were so scared, it pushed them back and they fell back. Now, the next location is called the Danvers State Hospital. And I've known several people who've been to this place. It's nestled atop Hawthorne Hill in Danvers, Massachusetts. It lies the eerie silhouette of a building that once housed the whispers of madness and torment. It was a state hospital. In 1874, this Gothic monolith began to rise from the ground. Thank you. Designed by then modern Kirkbride plan, and with its sprawling wings meant to hold patients in orderly, linear fashion. The design was hopeful in intent, but quickly succumbed to darker human condition. So the doors opened in 1878, meant as a sanctuary for the mentally afflicted. It soon harbored a far more sinister reality. So Danvers State Hospital was initially intended to hold roughly 500 patients. By the late 1920s, it had over 2,000. Overcrowding was not merely a problem, it became an affliction upon the institution itself. The original intention aims of compassionate treatment through fresh air, sunlight, and moral therapy vanquished. Overwhelmed nurses, underfunded systems, the tide of ill souls seeking refuge. So the dimly lit corridors, treatments such as lobotomies, electroshock therapy became routine practices. Patients were subjected to these terrifying quote-unquote cures, often with little more than a scream lost in the ether as evidence of their suffering. Many who walked through its doors seeking help would never emerge, becoming lost mentally. Danvers' walls bore witness to more than just medical barbarism. Its legend is tainted with accounts of hauntings, malevolent, evil presence that seem to seep in every crack and crevice. Thank you. Now, in the depths of the night, those who dared explore its ruins reported unseen hands upon their shoulders, eerie cries echoing through the empty halls, and visitors have spoken of encountering figures that vanish as quickly as they appear. Now, even today, those who dare trespass upon the grounds of the once grand asylum claim that they can still hear the wails of despair, murmurs of unrest, and even the ominous scratching of those confined against their will. Now, though the building was partially demolished to make way for new constructions, the lingering soul of Danvers State Hospital refuses to be silenced. The true horror of Danvers State Hospital does not lie solely in the physical confines, but in the shadowy memories. It stands as a reminder and a warning. I think this is a terrible... Danvers State Hospital, this psychiatric hospital has a lot of rumored stories of its hauntings, and terrible. Here are a couple of them that I want to share with you. A friend of mine, they called themselves urban explorers. They decided to venture into the ruins of Danvers State Hospital one night, equipped with nothing but flashlight and a sense of adventure. And as they navigated the corridors, they stumbled upon what appeared to be an abandoned infirmary. And then they started hearing the faint sounds of footsteps, but approaching rapidly. And turning around, they saw the apparition of a nurse in an old-fashioned uniform walking briskly towards them. Her feet seemingly not even to touch the ground. Her eyes were hollow. She carried a clipboard that seemed to hover in midair. And panicking, the explorers turned to flee, and when they dared to look back, the nurse had vanished, leaving only the sound of faded whispers in the hallway. The other story that someone told me about, during an impromptu visit to the site, a local paranormal investigating team set up their equipment in one of the larger wards known for its disturbing energy. And they began their EVP session, that's electronic voice phenomena, with their digital recorders. The room suddenly turned icy cold, and the investigators felt an overwhelming sense of dread, and their recording devices began picking up a series of faint, anguished cries and even screams. And capturing this eerie playback, they immediately started to pack up. And as they did, one of the members felt a sharp, painful grip on their arm as if someone had grabbed them. And then moments later, an invisible force shoved them against the wall. Terrified, the team fled the building, vowed never to return. And the last story, the encounter that I have of this, is several years after the hospital was closed, before it was partially demolished. A contractor was sent to survey the remaining structure for safety. While exploring the basement, he stumbled on an old elevator shaft, and the doors of which creaked open inexplicably on their own. So he was intrigued, he was a bit cautious. He stepped inside. The doors slowly closed. Them dim lights flickered ominously. Why would you do this? The elevator began to ascend on its own, stopping at the deserted third floor. And when the doors opened, he was met with a chilling sight. Shadowy figures of what appeared to be former patients stood in the hallway. He described as their faces being gaunt and expressionless, and then a distant, sorrowful wailing echoed through the corridors. And frozen with fear, he pressed the buttons frantically, and the elevator's doors closed, descending swiftly back to the basement. And unable to comprehend the experience, he quickly left the premises. He swore he would never, ever again to return to Danvers State Hospital. The next location is Alton Mental Health Center. And in a moment, probably around 8:15 or so, I'll open to the chat on everybody on TikTok. So Alton Mental Health Center is a really interesting place. I've spoken to quite a few people who've been there. It's situated on the banks of the Mississippi River in Alton, Illinois. The institution's story is one that sends shivers down the spine, awakens whispers of the supernatural. So the Alton Mental Health Center, originally known as Alton State Hospital, opened its doors in 1917. Oh, Elizabeth, you've been there? You have to tell us your experience. Its inception was rooted in early 20th century belief in asylums as places of sanctuary for healing for the mentally ill. However, thank you, as with many places, the reality behind these walls often bordered on something much, much darker. A perfect setting for the eerie whispers of shadowy figures that many claim haunt this institution even to this day. So as you approach the grand and foreboding facade of the facility, imagine it as a century ago. Imposing structure standing amid acres of farmland, isolated from the bustle of the city life. So here the hospital became more than a refuge. It was a world unto itself, a place where the lines between care and confinement often blurred. See, in the early days, the treatments at Alton, they were guided by the psychiatric practices of their time, many of which now elicit a sense of dread. So imagine the echoing clang of locks sealing away those deemed insane, patients subjected to lobotomies, insulin shock therapy. I mean, electroconvulsive treatment that rather than heal often left them as hollow shells of their former selves. So these methods, while well-intentioned, carried with them an air of grim experimentation. So patients became subjects in trials. The staff, under pressure to manage an ever-growing patient population, often operated with minimal training. And it was within these conditions of neglect that the unspeakable occurred. Okay, let me do this puzzle. There we go. So there were murmurings, tales of abuse, neglect that emerged from the darkness. And patients, most say, are still waiting for justice, their restless spirits lingering in the halls. Now, as the years went by, with changes slowly sweeping across the country, the facility began to evolve, yet despite advancements in medical health care, Alton Mental Health center's reputation for supernatural occurrences grew. So ghost paranormal investigators, enthusiasts are drawn to the haunted legends. So whispers, many people say ghostly apparitions will occur, phantom footsteps, and empty corridors. Inexplicable cold spots have turned Alton into a focal point. And let me tell you some of the stories that I have spoken to. I've spoken to one person who was there, and this is what they said. So late one stormy night, a night shift nurse named Julie, she was making her rounds at the Alton Mental Health Center. The power had briefly flickered, and as she found herself needing to check on some of the older unused wings of the buildings, and as she walked down of the dimly lit corridors, she heard faint sobbing coming from one of the rooms. And confused and a little concerned, Julie followed the sound and found herself standing in front of a locked room that had not been used in years. The crying became louder, and through the small window in the door, she saw a shadowy figure hunched over in the corner. She quickly called a security guard for assistance, and when he arrived, they unlocked the door, entered the room. To their shock, no one there. But the crying sound persisted. And suddenly a cold breeze swept through the room, and a whisper filled the air. And they both said they heard it. It said, "Help me." And terrified, they backed out of the room, locking it tightly behind them. And to this day, staff report hearing the same sobbing in that corridor during stormy nights. The next, someone told me about this story that was very familiar with this hospital. One evening, a young intern named Mark, he was tasked with organizing old patient files in the basement archives of the facility. And as he sorted through dusty folders, he noticed an old patient chart lying by itself on the table with the name Margaret Donovan written across the top. Curious, he opened it, skimmed through, learning about her tragic death at the hospital in the 1930s. And just then, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the archive room. Thinking one of the colleagues was also working late, he called out. No one answered. The footsteps continued, coming closer and closer, stopping right outside the door. Lights flickered, and a shadowy figure appeared in the doorway, and an apparition resembling the woman from the photograph in Margaret's file. Now, obviously frozen in fear, Mark watched this ghostly figure float into the room, her translucent face filled with sorrow. She pointed to an empty corner where an old rocking chair suddenly began to move on its own. Then, as quickly as she had appeared, vanished. Thank you. Mark bolted from the basement, and the file still clutched to his hand, and never, ever, ever returned to the archives again. And again, for those of you just joining, everybody, I'm Bishop James Long with the United States Old Catholic Church. I've been in the paranormal field for 35 years. First time investigating was 35 years ago. Tonight, we're talking about haunted hospitals and asylums. And I'm presenting the history of some of these places and telling you some stories of people who have experienced these terrifying paranormal experiences. So the staff, this is the last one on this one. The staff lounge in one of the newer wings of the Alton Mental Health Center was a place where nurses and doctors, they often gathered to unwind. Well, one evening, a nurse finishing her 12-hour shift decided to sit down, have a quick cup of coffee before heading home. And she relaxed in her chair. She noticed a shadow moving in the reflection of the window across from her. She thought it was a colleague playing a prank. She turned around, saw nothing. The room was empty. So she returned to her coffee, only to see the shadow move again. And this time, it was crawling along the walls, and it grew larger and darker. So panic set in. She realized the shadow was taking on human form, except it was far too elongated and distorted to be that of an actual person. The temperature in the room dropped drastically. She felt an oppressive weight pressing down on her. The shadow stopped moving and seemed to be fixated on her, and its dark essence whispering incomprehensible words that filled with dread. And just as suddenly as it arrived, it disappeared. She hurried out of the lounge, encountering a janitor in the hallway who remarked, "Oh, you met the shadow man. He's been here longer than any of us." That's what the janitor said. To this day, this nurse avoids the lounge at night, unwilling to risk another encounter with a mysterious shadow man. Pretty crazy. This next location is a very well-known Rolling Hills Asylum. This is a very interesting place. I've spoken to quite a few individuals who've gone to this location. If you've been to this location, just let me know. A lot of people have said that they've seen this and they are very uncomfortable. By the way, next week we will be having a special guest on, because we're going to talk about the infield haunting. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week, the infield haunting. And so it's a very interesting location. It's a location that I would like to visit one day. And that's going to be next Friday. So make sure you don't want to miss that. Rolling Hills Asylum. Thank you. Listen to this. This is a very interesting place. It is a formidable structure whose very bricks are steeped in dark history and mystery. It's a place where the supernatural intertwines with reality. Shadows of the past seem to dance eerily in the moonlight. Well, it's in East Bethany, New York. And Rolling Hills Asylum originally opened its doors in 1827, yet back then it bore the far less foreboding name of the Genesee County Poor Farm. Anyway, conceived as a home for society's misfits, it served as a haven, perhaps a prison, for the mentally ill, the destitute, the outcast. So imagine, if you will, a time when our understanding of mental health was shrouded in ignorance and fear, as we've talked about. Well, Rolling Hills, sprawling over its wind-swept grounds, became a self-sustaining community. But what really truly stirs the soul are the ghastly tales and inexplicable phenomena that persists with Rolling Hills' decaying walls. So visitors and staff alike have reported disembodied voices echoing through their empty corridors, shadowy figures lurking just beyond sight, cold spots. Among the most infamous is the spirit of Roy. Roy is a towering apparition said to be the ghost of 7.5-foot tall man who suffered from gigantism. So Roy was not only a resident, but unceremoniously forgotten soul who passed away within the asylum's walls. His towering shadow is often reported by those brave or curious enough to wander the building's labyrinth corridors. And then there are the sinister tales of the asylum's shadow hallway, where visitors recount feeling an overwhelming sense of dread in the darkness, witnessing fleeting shadow people peering from behind corners and silently slipping through the walls. We see this quite often at Waverly Hills. There's also the belief, many people talk about the fabled nurse Emma, a spectral caregiver eternally trapped in her charge. Well, witnesses claim to have heard the spectral echo of her nurse's shoes tapping the tiled floor. And some have even seen her ghostly figure moving through the shadow halls. By the way, the asylum ground, too, covers countless of unmarked graves, silent witnesses to the souls who departed with little ceremony. So Rolling Hills Asylum stands today not only as a monument to the past, but a testament to the spirits who seem unwillingly or unable to leave it. So these are some of the stories that I've spoken to people who've been here. And there's a paranormal team who told me this of their experience. Listen to this. This was a cold, windless night. A group of paranormal investigators gathered inside the shadowy corridors or Rolling Hills Asylum. Now, the group, armed with infrared cameras and EVP recorders, ventured into the darkened hallways where countless whispers of the past lingered. Thank you. And as they approached the slanted hallway of the second floor, a spine-chilling cold washed over them, as if an unseen force had entered their midst. And through the infrared camera, one of the investigators caught sight of a pitch black shadow darting along the wall opposite the windows, darker than the night and humanly impossible to produce. The figure appeared to be moving with alarming speed, its outline monstrous and misshapen. They said that the air grew dense and a rattling whisper filled with anguish and despair echoed through the corridor. Now, the shadow specter appeared to grow larger, filling the hallways with an eerie presence that felt like pure malevolence. And then panic seized the investigators as a door at the end of the hallway suddenly slammed shut with a deafening thud. And it was only later, upon reviewing their footage, as they heard the low, gurgling voice whisper through their recorder, and it said, "Get out now." Class A EVP. Class A means you can hear it very clearly. One person told me that they went to this location in the Sanatorium, known for its vast windows and once happy recreational space. A visitor there had encountered that left her haunted forever. So she was visiting on a self-guided tour during the Halloween season. She felt drawn to the room. Rumored to be a hotbed for paranormal activity, she was more of a sensitive. She described herself as a psychic medium. And as she stepped inside, an overpowering feeling of sadness swept over her, causing her tears to fill her eyes. And she shook it off. She walked towards the far end of the room she described it as an ancient, mournful wail pierced the silence. The unmistakable sound of a woman crying filled the space, echoing against the glass, but there was no one there. She was completely frozen in place. Her heart began to pound. She watched in horror as a misty apparition began to take form before her eyes. And the translucent figure of a woman appeared. Her face was obscured by long, dark hair, draped in a ghostly gown, she described it. She moved towards the visitor, and her cries growing in intensity. And this is a person, I've known her for a long time. This is a person, she's never lied to me. So the woman seemed to waver in and out of sight. And as quickly as she appeared, the ghost rushed at the visitor with a surge of indescribable cold. And the visitor stumbled backward in terror. And later she learned that this was rumored to be the spirit of one of the asylum's long-lost patients, driven insane by abandonment. And then there were two people that I knew during a late-night ghost investigation. Two investigators decided to brave the morgue. It's a place that is really steeped in sorrow and mystery. So the oppressive weight of the asylum seemed to intensify as they descended into the basement where the dead were once kept. Well, the stale air of the morgue, it was thick with a scent of decay. And clutching their flashlights, they surveyed the rows of cold storage units, long disused, but still carrying the burden of tragic history. As they stood there, unease settled into the room, and an unsettling hush took over. And suddenly their flashlights flickered and completely turned off, plunging the entire room into darkness. Their batteries drained. And in the suffocating blackness, a series of soft, they described it as shuffling footsteps began to echo. The sound was unnaturally close, surrounding them, yet coming from no discernible direction. And the air turned bitterly cold, and their breath visible in the faint white puffs. And one of the friends, reaching out in desperate bid for comfort, touched a distinct outline of a human hand. Thinking that it was their friend, it was icy and brittle, and the touch paralyzing in its horror. And just then, a fierce gust of wind howled through the morgue, bringing it with faint whispers. They couldn't figure out what it was saying. And then the flashlights came right back on. And of course, sprinting from the basement with their hearts hammering, they vowed never to return. But certainly it left its mark. The next location, Pennhurst State School and Hospital. So, thank you. This is an interesting, very interesting location. It's a place where echoes of the past still linger, where the cries and whispers of forgotten souls, many people say, still resonate. Hello. So Pennhurst State Hospital and School. It's a name that should shivers down your spine for its neglect, unfortunately. Constructed in 1908. It's a sprawling expanse near Spring City, Pennsylvania. Pennhurst was originally intended to be a beacon of hope, a progressive institution designed for care, for individuals referred to at times as feeble-minded, epileptic, and with grandiose ideas that promised specialized education, meticulous care, modern treatment. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. As the decades rolled by, Pennhurst's fate took a sinister turn, and the initial capacity of 500 patients swelled alarmingly to over 2,000 and cramped within an understaffed, underfunded fortress. That's when the horror took root. Reports of abuse, neglect, mistreatment emerged, treated by many as mere rumors, but later confirmed as brutal truths. Patients were often left to anguish, desperate, ignored, stripped of their dignity, subjected to appalling conditions. And wandering through its dilapidated hallways, the air grows very heavy with memories that once occurred. The twisted echo of footsteps, the ghostly scrape of rusty bed frames. It was a terrible place. The sinister reality of Pennhurst came fully to light in 1968 with the airing of Suffer the Little Children. It was a damning television expose on local news that unveiled a shocking truth: the faces of children forgotten by society, subjected to horrifying neglect. And you can watch this. It's actually online. It's a horrible, horrible documentary. It's called Suffer the Little Children. Even more sinister were the accounts unearthed in legal battles, like the 1977 case of Halderman versus Pennhurst State School and Hospital, which told a tale of systematic abuse, rotting facilities, rampant overcrowding. So in 1987, Pennhurst gates swung shut, abandoning its terrible haunted shell to nature's embrace. But for those cognizant of its grim history, the spirit of Pennhurst's past continued to rest uneasily. So as you leave this place, Pennhurst, it is a real, I think it should serve as an eternal testament. So here are some people who have expressed some really interesting stories at Pennhurst. There was a paranormal team that spoke to me a couple years ago. One night, a paranormal investigators decided to explore the abandoned halls of Pennhurst, drawn by the tales of restless spirits. Well, as they ventured into what was once children's ward, they noticed the temperature dropping drastically. Suddenly, the air filled with a heavy, oppressive feeling that made it hard to breathe. The team pressed on, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. And as they approached the end of the hallway, they saw a tall, shadowy figure standing still, as if waiting for them. And at first, they thought it was a trick of the light, but as they got closer, the figure began to move silently toward them. And panic set in on one of the investigators, attempted to capture the apparition on camera. Through the lens, he spotted not one, but several shadowy silhouettes drifting behind the first figure. Now, the original shadow began to stretch, reaching out long, ghostly arms as if trying to grasp them. Anyway, the group fled, and hearing what sounded like faint, sorrowful cries echoing in the corridors behind them. The next encounter, there was a friend of mine who was a psychic medium, decided to join a local ghost investigating team, eager to communicate with the spirits of Pinhurst. They made their way to the old infirmary, where the sick were once left in isolation. They settled in for a session, and the medium began to murmur softly, hoping to reach out, to any lingering spirits. And suddenly a distant, haunting song began to fill the room. It was the unmistakable sound of a lullaby, sung in a soft female voice. But the melody was eerily soothing yet heart-wrenching, echoing through the dilapidated walls. And as the team sat transfixed, the medium's demeanor changed. Her eyes fluttered shut. She started to sway gently to the rhythm of the song. And then moments later, the lullaby ceased abruptly. And the medium let out a blood-curdling scream and collapsed to the floor. And when she regained consciousness, she spoke of a vision. It was a spectral woman in white, endlessly searching the infirmary for her lost child. That was, when she told me that story, that was pretty intense. And there was, I was told by a group of people, there was a curious historian eager to document the spectral history of Pinhurst, and had ventured into the grounds alone on one misty evening. Well, his destination was the old playroom, rumored to be a hotspot for paranormal activity. So as he entered the room, he was overwhelmed by the feeling of being watched. And he recorded audio as he examined the dusty toys scattered about, remnants of joy amidst decades of neglect. But suddenly the silence was shattered by the sound of children's laughter, cheerful yet unnerving. So the historian felt a cold breeze brush past them, and the rusted swings at the end of the room began to sway back and forth, as if being pushed by an invisible hand. Then the laughter intensified, overlapping and echoing off the walls, transforming into shrieks. So terrified, he obviously dropped his recorder. He fled the room. The laughter followed him all the way into the facility's exit. When he later retrieved his recorder, he was stunned to hear a voice whispering amid the laughter, clear as day, "Stay and play with us." That's the EVP that he captured. The playroom, by the way, still exists, a realm where the innocent and the eerie intertwine, forever haunting those who dare disturb their play. Okay, so let me open up the settings for everybody. Okay. We'll see. Just be nice, TikTok. If you're not nice, I'm putting sub chat only on. All right. So there we go, guys. That is our presentation for the haunted location. Yeah, these are pretty. It is interesting. Some of these locations can be really frightening. Oh, you worked in a haunted hospital? Let me tell you something. There are a lot of people that tell tales of, scary tales. So yeah, Waverly, I don't know if you've ever been to Waverly. Waverly is really a very interesting place. Okay. Have you guys been to Waverly Hills? Okay. Yeah, there's quite a few. I have tons of story on Waverly Hills. My gosh. Oh, you see on Ghost Adventures? Yeah. It's a neat place. So if you go up the back way, there is there's a golf course waiting for you to run. And as you go up this hill, there is, of course, you can't go up there now because unless you're scheduled to, because you trespassing. But as you go, there's a check mark. You go through this place, and as you go through the clearing, thank you. It just, this great big building just shows up. So it's a very Can you tell me exactly what you do? Yes, I'm clergy, and I serve as the presiding archbishop and as an exorcist for the church. I've been in the paranormal community I've been in the paranormal for 35 years. And I help paranormal teams, and I ask paranormal teams to help me when I have some frightening cases. Because people say that you shouldn't work with paranormal teams. Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Paranormal teams are absolutely vital to my ministry because I can't get to locations. For example, thank you, Kaylee. For example, people in California. Well, I can't just hop on a plane in California. So if I have a family that's terrified, I will reach out to a team and say, please do me a favor. I need you to go out and investigate this home. And then they gather all the evidence. And then based on that, then they will tell me, okay, look, this is all the information. And then I'll make the decision on whether or not I need to get to this home. Yeah. I actually knew Lorraine. I did not know Ed, but I did know Lorraine. I was friends with Lorraine, but I did not know Ed. So that's it's very important. Here's the deal with, well, thankfully, yes, all the exorcisms were successful. Yeah. So I tell people all the time, Judy Ann's asking, are there any places that are too scary? I've talked about this. Look, I did the documentary, The Gates of Hell Cemetery. It's in Kentucky, and I was the person who named it the Gates of Hell Cemetery because 20 years ago no one even knew it even existed in the paranormal community. Nobody. And it was an old abandoned cemetery in Kentucky. It's off the beaten road, and a family asked me to go there and bless the grounds because people were desecrating the area. So we did, and this is a place. I've been to a lot of locations, but the Gates of Hell Cemetery, or it's known as KC Cemetery on YouTube. It's like Silent Hill. This is the only location that I've ever been to in my life where it is one place during the day and it is completely different at night. Because at night, and it truly comes alive. It is just, it's a location that I don't think, you go to that place at night, you're asking for trouble and you're going to find it. So it's Bobby Mackey's, the Gates of Hell Cemetery, I've said this many times, makes Bobby Mackey's look like Walt Disney World. This place, it is one of the most bizarre places, most demonically infested places that I've ever been to. I'm telling you now, if you look this up and you go to it, do not contact me and say, oh, Bishop Long, I went there and all hell is breaking loose. Well, you shouldn't have gone in the first place, because I tell people, stay away from it. And then it's inevitable. Yeah, it's called Gates of Hell. But that's what happened. It wasn't that long ago, about a month ago. A couple people contacted me and said, Bishop Long, I was watching your show and I know you said don't go. We did anyway. We did some investigations and now we're having violent activity in your home. Well, you shouldn't have gone because I told you not to go. And you did anyway. And now you expect me to fix the mess that you created. Well, I'm sorry, I can't get to your location right now because I have so many people requesting my help. And I don't charge, and I don't get paid as clergy, so I do this 100% free, even for the church. As a bishop, I receive not one penny. I do it for free. So I'm not going to let you cut in line with a family who is terrified because you chose to do something you shouldn't have done. So, yeah, see, let me just make this very clear. One, I don't charge. Never have. But the trolls will never say, oh, that's good. No, instead, they'll offer criticism. I've been doing this now for 25 years. And I've never charged one penny. I fund my own ministry. And just recently, that finally I've gotten help. So I don't charge and I don't get paid as clergy. So here's the deal. When people do things, they need to take accountability and not say, well, you're not being very professional. No, you need to take accountability for what you've done. Don't put it on someone else. See, and then people, when I tell people, no, I'm sorry, I can't get to you. Well, you're not being very professional. Well, you shouldn't have done what you did, because there are consequences for your behavior. So don't project those consequences onto me. You're the one who did it. But see, everybody wants to blame everybody else except for take accountability. Well, take accountability. So I tell people, stay away from it. It is not a good location. I'm an exorcist. I perform 33 exorcisms. I don't go to that place at night. That should tell you something. And it should tell you something because it is one of the most violent activities. What happens is, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that will go there that will do satanic rituals. They do a lot of terrible things. And they've desecrated the ground over and over and over again. And so, no, I'm not nervous, Mikey. I'm not negative. Actually, I'm not negative at all. You're negative, you little troll. Congratulations, you got my attention. Now let me introduce you to the back door. I'm negative because I tell people you have to be accountable. No, that's called being an adult. See, there's a difference. When you're an adult, you take accountability. You don't blame others for your decisions. That's called being a mature adult. Being an immature troll or an adult who acts like a pestilent child, who wants to blame everybody else for your decisions, you got the problem, not me. You're projecting your insecurities onto me, and I reject them. It just stay away from them. Stay away from places like this. Listen, let me make this very clear. No, I see, David. I actually mentioned that earlier. Sure, yeah, Kaylee, I'll answer that in just a second. Not everything is demonic. I'm going to make that very clear. I've said it before. I've been in the field for 35 years. I've worked, some of the most violent cases. I've worked cases where people were actually mentally ill and there was nothing there. I've worked cases where people thought there was something there, but we were able to explain it. We were able to debunk it. And people always ask me, hold on one second, guys. People always ask me about, well, you shouldn't work with paranormal investigators because they're doing the work of the devil. You know what? Shut up. Shut your mouth. See, our clergy just said, for those people who say, you shouldn't work with paranormal investigators because they're doing the work of evil. Shut up. I don't see you answering the phone call at 3:00 in the morning, going to people's homes. I don't see you buying thousands of dollars worth of equipment. I don't see you answering the phone calls and driving 8-10 hours of someone's home and not charging and going to their home and their location, spending hours upon hours investigating the claim, trying to debunk it. And then when you can't debunk it, putting your team and yourself in danger because you could be walking into a demonic case and then working with the church all for free. I don't see you doing it, but what I do see you doing it is this. That's what I see you doing. You offer nothing but venom. So if you're going to sit there and attack paranormal investigators, then why don't you open your checkbook and why don't you buy the thousands of dollars worth of equipment? Why don't you answer the phone calls? Why don't you travel 10 hours to somebody's home whom you don't owe anything to? And then you work these demonic cases, but you won't do that, will you? No, what you'll do is open your mouth and complain. See, paranormal investigators are people that these are individuals, and I've talked about this before. These are individuals who do a ministry. This paranormal equipment is not cheap. So number one, they're spending a lot of money on this equipment. Well, they don't need any paranormal equipment. Well, you need a gene pool. You shouldn't have. Anyway, they do need equipment because they have to determine what is there. They have to demonstrate it. They have to document it. So there are reasons why they have equipment. And then when they gather the evidence, they present the evidence to me. And then I decide what I need to do from a clergy's perspective. So these are people, they don't charge. They travel a long distance sometimes to get to these people's homes. They spend hours upon hours investigating. It's a lot of work. Setting all the equipment up alone is a lot of work. Then not only that, then they drive. Sometimes they have to stay overnight at a hotel because they're far away. And then they have to drive all the way home. And then they have to go through all the evidence, which takes even longer. Thank you. And then after they gather all that, they present it to me. So that is a ministry. So for those of you who are just blah, 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 you're the negative thing. Okay. Offer your negativity. And then I'm going to come to you next time I have a case. And I'm going to say to you, I need you to buy the equipment and go 10 hours. See, you won't do it. You won't do it. Because you have no backbone. You have no spine. You have no morals. What you do have is demonically influenced behavior because you troll. See, trolls are influenced by the demonic. Did you know that? I'll move on when I want to move on. See, trolls are demonically influenced because a person who is truly filled with Christ, they don't troll other people. Plain and simple. Thank you. So if you are trolling, then either one, you're completely incompetent. Two, you're evil. And three, you are demonically influenced. Because there is a term called ordinary demonic activity. And quit talking about demons. You just was upset the other night for people talking about demons. Did you use all your brain cells to type that out? If you're going to insult, at least can you perhaps maybe put a sentence together that makes sense? Anyway, TikTok, of course, doing this. And by the way, you're here watching me. I'm not watching you. You're a fan. Get over yourself. Now, before I was really into stuff. So that's paranormal investigators. I have a little bit of a spunk in me. I don't allow trolls to intimidate me because they don't at all. Trolls are mental midgets. But our paranormal investigators they are phenomenal people. They're phenomenal people. As often as you can, Candy, but we have them online at 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you can't, you don't have to. If you're unable physically to go to, we have it on at 6 p.m. So anyway, that's a little bit about the paranormal investigating. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you there, Frank. Run into law? What do you mean? To law? It airs here on TikTok. Towards the root of no. Yes, our loved ones absolutely can visit us. Skinwalker Ranch. I would like to. I maybe one day we'll do a Skinwalker Ranch. So, but that's the thing, guys. Look, here's the deal. I'm an exorcist, so this is why I talk about demons, and this is Friday night. So this is paranormal. Thank you. This is Paranormal Fridays. That's what we do on Fridays. Let me go slower. Excuse me. Fridays is our show one night a week where we dedicate it to the paranormal. Tell me if I'm going too fast, trolls. So therefore, we're going to talk about demons and ghosts and paranormal one night a week. Okay? And the rest of the night, we have Bible study and night prayer. Okay. So if you have any, yeah. Doing well, Texas. Hopefully you're doing well. No, I've not heard that, Angela. Well, a lot of times people will talk about like your family members, their favorite perfume or their favorite cologne. For example, Wilma, she's lived in the same house all her life, and her father loved Old Spice. And her father's been, passed away for quite some time, 20, 25 years ago, I think. And so there's no Old Spice in the home. Sometimes she will smell the Old Spice. And it's very, very strong. She will smell it. So, and I talked about that earlier, like the butterfly with my mom, or the exorcisms that I have performed. I will always smell roses. Absolutely crazy. Gregorian chant is one of the best things you absolutely can play that will fight and demonic. Yeah, actually, Pam, I used to do a coast to coast quite often. I've done coast to coast quite often. Demons can be in dreams. Yeah, Angela. I was called Misty. I was or Miss Foxy. God called me to this. I knew I wanted to be a priest at 5, and I knew that I began reading books on demonology when I was 9 years old. Well, thank you. So that's always there. Are you talking about New Orleans? Cemetery in New Orleans? Yeah, here's the deal. This is my advice to you. A lot of people ask me, well, should I go to this location? Should I go to this location? Let me make this very clear to everyone. If a location is known to have demonic activity, stay away. It's that simple. Stay away from it. Just stay away. Why would you go to locations that's known to have demonic activity? Why? Because I want to see something. And then what are you going to do if you see it? What are you going to do if you go there and because your presence being in there, is anyone here? Can you do something? Can you make a noise? Do you understand? If you go to a location and you're beating your chest, come on, demons, I dare you to do something. I dare you to do something. Do you understand that if you do this, you are not provoking, you are inviting? There's a big difference between the two. So the moment you step into a location and you go to them and you, come on, demons, do something, I dare you. You've now invited. So, Miss Foxy, there is no such thing. There is no such thing as saving a demon. That is incorrect. They've already been condemned. Revelation is very clear about that. Demons they cannot be, under any circumstances, they cannot be redeemed. They were in the very presence of God and fully reject God. They are fallen angels. The idea that we are going to somehow, we're going to be nice to you. We want to change your mind. Oh, I didn't think about that. All of a sudden they're going to, no. That's how they toy with you. Oh my goodness gracious. It could be a demonic infestation. There could be a variety of reasons why. An invitation, such as playing with a Ouija board, doing things that you shouldn't do, seances, any of those things. If you do any of those things, then you can have what's called demonic infestation. Sure, Miss Foxy, and that's what you don't ever want to do. Sure, yeah, Christina. The knockings are the 3 knockings. Is a mocking of the Trinity. So many years ago, when I was on Ghost Adventures. When Zach first met me, he came to my church and he said, I'm scratched. And he showed me the video and he had the 3 scratches right at his back. And the way the scratches were, I'm not going to go into detail, but it was clearly demonic. And that was a form of mocking of the Trinity. So, Crystal, that was actually a personal revelation of the 3 day of darkness. And even the Roman Church does acknowledge as valid. They acknowledge it as a personal prophecy, but not one that is something that they valid or deemed as valid. You will be judged how you keep this grieving. What are you talking about, Patrick? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. Father Morth, Gabriel Morth. I don't do tarot cards. I don't do tarot cards. I am not going to put my faith in a deck of cards. That's just me. I'm not going to put my faith in a deck of cards. I'm going to put my faith in me, in my decisions, in what I choose to do today will affect my tomorrow. Oh, thank you, the Scorpio. Oh, wow, Caitlin, that'd be pretty neat. Okay. Oh, yeah, John, it's not a good thing. Well, there are other. It's not just in threes. So, like, religious objects could be desecrated. You could smell sulfur or even rotten flesh. People could be attacked. Cars demonic, no, but they sometimes. My very first car, actually my second car, I called it Lucifer or Satan, because every time I got paid, I was working. Every time I got paid, it would break down. So I gave it a new nickname of Satan because that's what it was. Because you're created in the image of God, Lily. Yeah, Mike, don't participate in them. Is there a way to protect someone during a seance? Yeah, don't participate in them. Psalm 23, Psalm 91, Monica. Cards? Do I believe in cards? Like 21 or what do you mean? Sure they can. Yeah, free spirit. Yeah, you got to be careful. Yeah, they do. They do, Monstar. Demons have different names. They do. And there is hierarchy as well. Yeah, guys, look. My protege? Well, I'd have to really get to know somebody. Here's the deal. I have friends that are psychic mediums. I don't put my faith in cards. I just don't. I'm not going to. No, I'm not. I just simply don't. I choose my future by what I do today. I choose that. And so that's just, that's fine. That's fine. And again, Chip Coffey is one of my best friends. I've known Chip for years. Willie Windwalker Gibson. He's a medium, a psychic medium. And that's fine. They choose to do that. Okay. That's their right. Someone asked me and I gave them my opinion, you know? So anyway, he didn't. Romeo, what's up with the Pope? Allegedly, so the first of all, that whole entire video, it was satire. So someone made a satire video. It made it look like it was a news channel. It's not. Actually, if you go into their profile, you'll see that they even say it's satire. They said that the Pope in the hospital was screaming that demons were going to come get them. It's absolutely 100% false. The story is not true at all. Completely false. It made its round on social media. It just simply was not true at all. So, and a lot of people then read it and they ran with it. And of course, in one of the things it said that, the Vatican spokesperson even verified it. No, they didn't. Not a jealous God in the jealousy of human jealousy. Socks. So I know where you're going with this, and you're going to fail. You're trying to put a human emotion on God. Nice try, but nope, incorrect. Oh yeah. I've met Ryan several times. I wouldn't mind. I would like to talk with him. So okay. TikTok, hang tight with me. We're going to wrap things up on our friends on Facebook and KGRDB Radio and everything. So for those of you who are listening to this presentation on our podcast, we're going to say goodnight to you guys. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow we're going to be here at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our open mic night show. We bring in the moderators, and you also will bring you on as well. So you guys more than welcome to come on and come up on screen with us and ask questions, and we'll go from there. And then Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bible study. And don't forget, 6 p.m., we have Mass. And that's 6 p.m. is on TikTok only. And by the way, for those of you who haven't heard, Donald Trump has offered another extension to TikTok. So there we go. Because it was supposed to close up shop on the 5th tomorrow, but it's not. So stay with me, TikTok. All right. For those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and KGRDB Radio, remember I tell you your value does not decrease based on a troll's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless, and don't let a troll tell you or convince you otherwise. Until then, we'll see you soon.